Hey everyone, welcome to week 8. So I'm going to take a couple minutes to go over the agenda for the week. There is some important information regarding project part 4 and the late work deadline. So I want to make sure that I cover that with you here at the beginning of the week. Go ahead and take a look here. So of course, the first thing you'll need to do is take the week 8 attendance quiz. You won't be able to access anything else in week 8 until you've done that. Keep in mind that the questions on the week 8 attendance quiz come from the material we covered last week in week 7. In this case, it was a lesson on the revision process. So if you're a little behind, you're going to want to make sure that you go through that lesson from week 7 so that you can take the week 8 attendance quiz and so that you have a better understanding of how to go about revising project part 3, since project part 4 is being assigned this week. Once you have taken the week 8 attendance quiz, you'll have access to everything else in the module. The first item you'll see under the quiz is the quick review of week 7. Then you have one lesson this week. It is a required lesson, a prerequisite for accessing project part 4, and it is just a course review. There's only a PowerPoint for this lesson because everything in that PowerPoint I have already covered in previous lessons, including the videos. So I wasn't going to make an additional video for this particular lesson because I've already covered all of this information in other videos. But you do have to go through the PowerPoint. It is a required item. If there's anything in the PowerPoint that you're like, oh, wow, I should maybe brush up on that, you can always go back to the module that that lesson is from, go through that PowerPoint again, watch that video lesson. If you're having trouble locating certain things, you're not sure where to go to brush up on the thing you need to brush up on, reach out to me and I'll point you in the right direction. But at the very least, you do at least need to go through this PowerPoint for the course review. Our homework for this week, you have Journal 8, right? It is a follow-up to last week's discussion. Make sure that you watch both videos that are in the assignment instructions for Journal 8. Of course, the first video just tells you what the prompt is about. The second video is the follow-up to the poem from last week. So watch both of those, complete the journal, try to have it in by Sunday night. Then we have project part 4, the final draft of your research paper, right? In order to access project part 4, you will need to, of course, submit the week 8 attendance quiz. You will need to have submitted project part 3 and received my feedback, meaning you need to have gotten all 25 points for the draft and gotten the feedback from me so that you know what to do to revise. You also need to have gone through all the grammar and mechanics lessons from week 6. You may have skipped those during week 6, and that's okay. But now that you are working on the final draft of your paper, one of the last steps in the revision process is proofreading, right? Looking for those small sentence level errors before you submit it. Those lessons from week 6 on grammar and mechanics will help you do that. So if you did skip them, you will need to go back to week 6 and go through every single lesson. They're all marked required, so you'll be able to tell which ones you are required to go to. So make sure you've gone through all of those. You'll also need to have gone through the revision lesson from last week, and you'll need to have gone through the course review lesson from this week. Once you have completed all of those items, you've gone through all of that content, then you will be able to access the instructions for project part 4. When you do have access to project part 4, make sure you read the written instructions carefully and watch the video. You'd think this is kind of a no-brainer. It's just making revisions and turning in your final draft. But you do want to make sure that you fully understand how you are going to be graded. So I go through the list of submission requirements, all of the things you need to make sure you have accomplished. And I kind of go through what things will get some points, taken away, what errors will get a lot of points deducted, what kinds of errors will just get you a straight up 0 on the final draft. It's good to know, there are some errors that you could be committing that will just give you a failing grade right away. I also go through the rubric with you so that you will see in the video exactly how I will be grading your final draft. So a lot of useful information in the video, right? Make sure you read the written instructions and watch the video before you submit the final draft. Because there might be some things you need to go back and tweak just to be on the safe side. Project part 4 is due the Wednesday of week 9. Typically, every week, the assignments are due Sunday night of that week. In this case, for your final draft, I'm giving you a few extra days. If you can have it in by Sunday night of this week, that's great. But the technical due date is Wednesday of next week at 11:59 p.m. If you are not going to be able to get that submitted on time, you need to reach out to me right away to see if we can come up with a plan to get it submitted within a day or two of that due date. Once we get towards the end of week 9, there's just too much else going on for you and me. So, you know, you're going to need to start preparing for your reflective essay that you do in week 10. I need to be able to get these final drafts graded so that then I can grade the reflective essays in week 10, because remember, week 10 is a short week. Week 10 only goes till Thursday night. The reflective essay will be due Wednesday night. I have to have final grades turned in Friday. So there's just not a lot of time for you or for me in those last, 6-7 days of the course. So that is why the final draft of, project part 4 is due Wednesday of week 9. I could maybe give you an extra day or so, but you need to reach out to me right away if you're not going to meet the Wednesday night deadline. Okay. And speaking of deadlines, this little reminder right here, right? Week 8 is the deadline for late work. So anything that you are missing from weeks 1 through 7 that you still have access to, if you want to submit those items late, Sunday of this week is the absolute last day you can do so. Now, the late work policy will still apply, right? So a 10% reduction in points for every week it's late. This means you need to choose wisely. If you have some items from week 2 that didn't get turned in, some items from week 5 that didn't get turned in, maybe an item from week 7 that didn't get turned in, work your way backwards. Because that late work policy, if you're getting a 10% reduction in points, you're going to get more points for the thing that is most recent. So here in week 8, if you have an item from week 7 that's late, turn that in. You're going to get close to full points for it. That item from week 2, you're going to get minimal points for it. So it needs to be lower on your list of priorities, right? So just be very strategic if you do have late items that you would still like to submit for partial credit. But again, this Sunday is the last day period that you can submit anything from weeks 1 through 7. If we get into week 9 and you try to submit something from week 7 or 6 or 5, I will not accept it. The only thing I will accept during week 9 is journal 8. That's the only late item I will accept in week 9. Because I know you might be focusing on getting that final draft ready. So if you don't get to the journal this week, I will let you submit it late next week. Okay? All right. If you have any questions about any of this, the late work deadline, anything involving project part 4, the course review, anything, reach out to me. I will do whatever I can to help. And we're getting down to the wire, and I want to help all of you, do well and pass the class. So I will help however I can. Right? Otherwise, you guys are free to go ahead and get started.